All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Friedlander, and I'm your host for Motherhood Unlimited, the #1 summit for moms who want it all. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. It is our mission to take the limits off motherhood and empower moms to have it all for their own unique and vibrant life. We believe that when moms learn to create where, who, and how they want to be, their happiness and overall life satisfaction increases, and they become inspired and inspirational for their children and each other. Today, we are talking about how to create mental, emotional resilience through the 4 agreements. Our expert is Victoria Allen. I invited her to share with you because of her work helping people tap into their deep wisdom inside themselves and become their own fairy godmother. Thank you so much for being here, Victoria. I'm so glad to have you.
Thank you, Valerie. I'm so pleased to be here and be part of this summit and to experience being with you and all the mothers that are here.
Awesome. So before we get started, let me tell everyone a little bit about you.
Okay.
All right. So Victoria wants to live in a world where relationship 101 is taught in school, courageous loving is a priority, and gratitude showers our world with beauty and abundance. Oh, love it. As much sought after change agent, therapist, transformational coach, and spiritual mentor, she inspires clients to raise their inner state, the foundation for loving choices and harmonious relationships. Victoria has cultivated a diverse background in the healing arts. Her integrated approach to wholeness coalesces from a vast background of education and personal experience. She has a bachelor's degree in nursing and certification as an OBGYN nurse practitioner. She earned a master's in counseling psychology and a license as a marriage and family therapist. Her focus of work includes women's empowerment, relationship coaching, dream work, and spiritual retreats around the world. So welcome again, Victoria. It's so wonderful to have you. Let's start off. I would love to hear you share a little bit with us about your journey to taking the limits off of motherhood.
Wow. Well, my children are out of the house now, so I guess limits are gone. But I work with a lot of women who have children and families, and gosh, if I'd answer that question, I'd say when we take our limiting beliefs off of ourselves, when we take the rules off of ourselves and become more authentically real and connected to our own self, we become more real and connected to our children and our life. And so I'd say self-care takes the limits off. Really coming into deep acceptance and love for yourself, and knowing how to do that is what makes you an unlimited free being, basically.
Awesome. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you started to do that for yourself.
Well, I'd had a medical background as a nurse and a therapist, and knew a lot behaviorally, mental, emotionally, and it really wasn't until I met my spiritual teacher that I felt like I really began to soar into my own happiness and my own love and my own nature. And I was suffering a lot at the time in my life. Mainly, I felt victimized by my life, and I didn't know how to do that differently. I had a lot of judgment on myself and everybody else. Yeah. So I think that mental, emotional suffering is what took me to the next level, to really find out how to gain awareness and release that so that I can just live accepting and loving myself and everyone else around me. So that's where I am now, and it's been a journey.
Awesome. Awesome. So you said your talk is about the 4 agreements and how that can raise us up. Tell us a little bit. I became familiar with the book, The 4 Agreements, a while ago. My mom handed it to me. She's like, here, you need to read this. I was like, okay. I started and was like, yeah, I'm not ready for this. This is too big. But I didn't have somebody to help guide me through it. And then when I came back to it more recently, it was like, whoa, this is amazing. And I'd gotten a lot more tools to process it. I would love for you to share with us so that we can kind of understand how this applies to us. What are these 4 agreements and how can we bring them into our lives?
All right. Well, my teacher was Miguel Ruiz, and he wrote this book and these agreements, which he calls really the agreements for life. They're agreements that help us unwind our conditioned programming. I'll say our mind that is conditioned to live in limitation. So all the agreements really help us come into shore up our integrity, our happiness, and really find ourselves in a deep, deep way. And these agreements are so simple and they're so challenging. In fact, I used to be one of Miguel's teachers when sort of all his teachers were around him. And people would read the book and they'd call me and they go, "These are great. I feel it. I know it must be true, but how do I live these agreements?" So just briefly, the first one is be impeccable with your word. Mm-hmm. And that one, if you just become impeccable with your word, you'll clean up a lot of negativity. The mind tends toward negativity and limitations. And what that really means is be impeccable with your word to yourself. Mm. So it's the negative self-talk. Mm-hmm. It's the judgment. It's I should have, I could have. That's what you have to be mindful of. You have to really kind of be that witness. I call the witnesses like up here looking at the mind and seeing how you're doing that self-talk and really say what you mean and do what you say. And so that's all being impeccable. It shores up your energy field so your energy is not scattered everywhere with the mind's ideas of, you know, what we're doing, what we're not doing it right, not doing. So the first agreement I would say is probably the most important.
Yeah.
The second agreement is make no assumptions. And I think that is important for, let's say, speaking to our mothers, if you have husbands or partners, children, making no assumptions is huge. The mind tends to make assumptions about everything. If our partner is getting a little distant and we're like, what's going on with him or her? We make an assumption. Oh, well, this must be happening over there. And when we stop making assumptions, we actually come into deeper levels of intimacy. We're able to say, honey, I'm noticing that you've just kind of gone away for the last few hours. Is there anything going on? Or, you know, it's an ability to come in more intimately. And so just to erase assumptions from our life is big.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
I've even been practicing on the roads of LA. It's like, you know, we make an assumption it's 4:30, so the roads are going to be crowded, and, you know, and we make assumptions, or I'm not going to get a parking place. That assumption in our mind is there all the time. Yeah. And instead of just being in our life as it is and going forward. So that's a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the one that comes to mind is like, he's not doing this, so he must not care about me.
Exactly. That's an assumption.
Yeah.
And if and often it's because I work with a lot of couples and women who say exactly that. It's like, no, he's just in his compartment. He's just doing what he does. He has no radar. Like we women have radar around everything. We're connected to life. And men are often in their own little compartment doing what they're just doing, focused on that. Mm-hmm. And so asking questions, checking in, communicating, is big. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The third agreement is take nothing personally. Now, this is challenging because we do feel responses and reactions to people, and people like judge us or treat us in a harsh way, unkindly, and it hurts our feelings. It doesn't feel good, and yet trying to help people see that nothing is personal. This is a hard one for people to get because it feels personal. But really, everyone lives in their own, what I call their own dream, their own mind. And that mind does what it does. And if it's unkind because of that mind. It's not unkind because of us. And even if we're being, I can say, we're being ornery or flaky or something, and someone judges us, they're judging us because that's what their mind does. And not taking it personally is a big challenge, but it really helps untangle a lot of the strife in relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Big one that stood up for me. And it goes back to that whole, he's not doing this, so he must not care about me, and this kind of get entangled together. And like, but I know that when I'm in my thing and my husband reacts as though I were being uncaring, it's like, no, I just wasn't thinking about you or whatever it is. And one of the sayings that somebody told me at one point that really stuck out for me is that what I say is about me, and what you hear is about you, and vice versa. So what you say is about you, and what I hear is about me. And I was trying to remember that when I'm interacting with somebody, because it's like they have their filters, I have my filters from our own experiences. And it's like, okay, so that's kind of helped me start remembering that it isn't about me, but then how do I want to respond to it? And I think that's what the next one you're coming to.
Just do your best. That's the thing. And we've heard that, of course. We've heard, oh, just do your best, do your best. But when you really take it to heart, and you know that certain days your best is really great, and other days your best is just your best, you're getting by. And it really helps us not be so hard on ourselves. It helps bring down that part of many of us who have perfectionism. Mm-hmm. And just do your best and forgive yourself. If you think you could be doing better, you really couldn't be, because you're only doing what you are able to do in the state of consciousness you are at the time. And one of the things I say is, people will go back, and I know this one for sure. It's like, oh, if only I was this conscious when my children were small. And yet, if only I could have done something different. I mean, that tends to be the mind going into the past, mm-hmm. and regret or remorse. And all that energy that goes into the past is not available present now, and we aren't as high functioning. So the more we can get rid of the past by not saying we should have done it differently or we could have, because the truth is we could only have done what we did at the time based on our consciousness at the time. And I'll say consciousness, our awareness at the time. Mm-hmm. So do your best, do your best. And if that's a motto every day, there's so much self-acceptance that comes with that one.
Yeah. I definitely have had those moments of like, I wish I had, or, the shoulda, woulda, couldas, or, exactly what you're saying, especially as a mom, you're dealing with this little person, and I mean, there's so much responsibility involved there. It's easy to and right now I'm okay. I can think clearly, but when I'm overtired, kid's gotten up a billion times in the middle of the night, and the next day I'm kind of crabby, and then I beat myself up over, well, I'm not being my best. But what you're saying, it sounds like, is that actually I am being my best in that moment.
Yes, given your energy, given your circumstances. Definitely when we take on a lot, we have our fingers in every pot, and we can't manage energy. We all have a certain amount of energy that we can manage. And let's say we're overloaded, we are not going to meet all of our life with the best of us. It's the best we can do given what's on our plate. Or like you said, if you're up with a sick child all night, that next day, you're not going to be necessarily at your top shape. And that's as good as you can do that day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So these are all things that I get it up here. I get it. It makes sense, like you were saying. But what's something that I could do to use it in a moment of stress? Like what's something that I can do to make it more tangible for myself and actually live it?
So what would you like to live in the moment? For instance, what are you speaking specifically to? Okay.
I guess one of the things that I often struggle with is, like reacting to my kid acting out, or my husband had a bad day and he comes in all like, and I'm like, I just jump right in,
Don't be like that.
Yeah. Okay. So what's something tangible that I could do to kind of pull myself back and get more mindful and and remember these agreements?
Well, I would say the quickest and easiest thing always is to, first of all, recognize you're going into some kind of reaction. And how do you recognize that? Basically, ultimately, we have to have connection with the witness that witnesses our mind, that witnesses our reactions. So that's a piece of it. But when I recognize I'm starting to go into some kind of reaction, I call it refrain. You refrain and breathe. You breathe. And the breath process is so powerful, and we ignore it. And yet our breath has the ability to shift our state at will. So let's say we're in an anxious state or a reactionary state. It takes 2 to 3 minutes to stop and take a deep inhale through the nose to the count of 7, hold that for 7, exhale through the mouth, count of 7. And you do that 2 or 3 minutes, your entire state has to change. It just does. It shifts your brain, it shifts your oxygen, the muscles relax, and then you're able to go, okay, he's had a bad day, and I'm going to try to just support him being exactly as he is. He's downloading that day, and I'm not going to be in reaction. I'm going to be supportive or compassionate. And so I think the breath is the quickest way, and we forget. We don't recognize our most powerful tool is just like right here in our lungs.
Yeah, it seems so simple. It's like, well, I do it all the time, but that conscious breathing, I mean, you're just talking about it. I'm sitting here like,
yes, it's so simple. And it's right here. And do we really think about that? No, we don't. And I encourage people to create a breath practice 3 times a day for 20 minutes or for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 2 minutes, just to get used to, oh, breath works. Breath relaxes me. So it's a self-care process or practice.
Yeah. Well, I love what you're saying too about just practicing it. Just practicing it. Like just remembering to practice, even though like it's that new habits, the new habit of pausing, the new habit of stopping to breathe. I forget, sometimes these things that, well, they're supposed to be good for me. So why isn't it easy? Like, why do I forget to do the things that are good for me? So
new habits are not familiar, and they're not easy until we make them a habit.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what's one thing, I mean, I see that as like being something that could help me pull my energy back to me instead of just like throwing it out at other people and, maintain it as something that I'll have more energy to do what I want to do instead of, just like kind of deflating. I would love to hear, especially with your background as a therapist, and for couples. I mean, that was one area that I really struggled in after having kids. Our relationship was a huge challenge. Like I kept getting caught up in resentments, and we ended up seeing a therapist actually because I was like, something is off. I didn't know what it was, but I was like, something is off. What would you say to a couple that comes in and is just like, we just had a baby. Things are off. We're not connecting the way that we used to. What do we do?
I'd say you're right. You had a baby. Things are off. You had a container with 2 people in it, or maybe this is a second or third baby. You've had a container. And I always like to see couples really create an earth, a foundation with each other. And then you add another little being in the midst, and the whole foundation starts to shift and change. Say the earthquakes, and you have to rebalance. It's a transition, and you go through so many transitions in life. A new baby is a big one. It's a big growth time. We have to get outside of ourselves more than ever. And so I think it's important that couples get supported. I just want to say good on you guys for going in and having someone support you through the transition. And if people can do that, I think everybody should have a coach or therapist on the side. You may not need her or him for 3 years. And this is what I find. I have people that I've worked with for years, and I haven't talked to them. And all of a sudden they're oh, we're going through the transition, my husband just lost his job, or I just was diagnosed with something.
Yeah.
And, or we've had a new grandchild, or we've had a new child. And so those transitions, we need to be supported as much as possible. Mm-hmm. And we have to shift and change together. And so communication is really important. And also, I think when a new child is introduced into a couple, mm-hmm. It's important the couple doesn't forget that they're foundational for this child.
Yeah.
And I always say, I come first, because if I'm empty, I have nothing to give my husband or my kids, anybody in my family, or my clients, or my friends. Mm-hmm. So you have to take care of yourself first. And that's one of the first things that happens when you become a new mother, is like you have no time to go exercise or have lunch with your girlfriends because you have babies, right? But for a person and for the couple, I think it's so important they really take time to keep watering the relationship, nurturing the relationship. I'm always encouraging my couples to set up date night for sure, mm-hmm. date lunch, date Saturday morning, whatever that takes, to keep that foundation strong.
Yeah. It is. It seems like, well, your top priority is the baby, making sure the baby is okay. And it's easy. I know I find that sometimes it's easy to forget that I can do that while still nurturing me. I get so, early on when I first had the kid, it was like, all I could see, because I was so low on sleep. I was just so overwhelmed by the newness. The blinders go on, that kind of like emergency experience where I couldn't think outside of just what was right in front of me, which was really stressful for a while.
Yeah, it is. It very much is. And of course, the baby is the priority. The baby can't take care of itself. So in that instance, yes, little children are the priority. Mm-hmm. And we need to remember, what is it that nurtures us? What is it that gives us some vitality? Often it's just a lot more sleep.
Yeah. So I could ask for help though. That's the funny thing. It's like, that was the first thing that I didn't think of. It's like, people came in initially to help me out, but then afterwards it was like, once they were all gone, okay, you're on your own. Right. And reaching out was, it was hard. It was hard. And I thought, well, I'm supposed to be, this is a normal thing. This is a natural thing to do. So I should just know how to do it all and how to manage it all, right?
That's really, I know the feeling. I remember when I had a son and my daughter came home 17 months later, and all of a sudden when my mom left, I'm like, I got scared. It's like, well, now I could take care of one, but how do I do two? Mm-hmm. So there's those fearful moments until you get your rhythm going and recognize, yes, I can do this. But if you can get help. And I also remember taking a girlfriend who had a baby, and we would take turns taking care of the babies together so that she could get time out to go to the grocery store without the baby, or I could take time out to do something. And so ask for help on every level if you can.
Mm-hmm. I love that, the thinking outside the box, instead of just being creative, getting creative with what's possible instead of making assumptions about what is and isn't possible.
Right.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love that. So if the audience that's listening were to take away 3 main things from what you're sharing, what would those 3 things be?
I'm talking to mothers, right?
Yep.
Mothers, women in general. Fire your should master. I call our shoulding voice our should master. That's always there. You should do this. You should do that. And that is the number one. Our energy goes out all over the place doing what we should be doing rather than listening inside to our energy level, what's in our bellies, what's in our heart, really what is inside and what is it we really need to do or want to do instead of doing what we should do. So I think that is huge. That brings a lot of energy back to you. And it feels foreign to many women who are used to having their energy go out into life. Women in general love to feel connected to life. So we have a lot going on. And when all of a sudden we introduce children into the mix and our energy really needs to be there, we really have to cut back on other things and not listen to that. I should be on that committee. I should do this. And so that's a big one. That's like the number one for me. Mm-hmm. For all women.
Yeah. Well, and it ties to that be impeccable with your word too, of like, you know, my mom would say, stop shooting all over yourself.
Right. So it's a big one. And people know this. People go, well, people do know this, but actually doing it can make you feel, for me, when I really started working with this piece, there were times I felt hard, like cutting off something I couldn't do. I felt uncaring at times. I can't do this. And it wasn't that I wasn't caring. It wasn't that I was hard. It was just I had a limit. So limit setting can be challenging if you're used to saying yes to everything.
Yeah.
But that's a powerful way to bring back your own energy and your own integrity and really follow your own values rather than what society puts on you of what you should be doing.
Yeah, definitely. Or what you were raised thinking.
What you were raised to do, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
What actually works for you. That's so novel.
Yes. Another thing I would suggest to your audience, because I hear this from couples, I hear complaints. I hear the mind that complains. And if you're having a complaint about, let's say, your partner, and you want to feel differently, you want it to be different. And one of the things I hear a lot is, I don't feel like he appreciates me. Or I'll hear that from men. My wife doesn't appreciate me, which is really important for men, that we appreciate what they offer into our relationship. And so I'll say to women, if you want to feel more appreciation from your man, don't keep bugging him for it. You start living appreciation. You start living that, I call it a vibration of energy. It's like, yes, I'm going to appreciate myself for this, and I'm going to appreciate her for that, and I'm going to appreciate my life for what I have. So you start pulling yourself to appreciation. You fill yourself up with that same vibration that you're looking over there for. And I think that's important for relationships. I think it's important for all of us. I call it being the master of your own frequency. If you want to feel that energetic of acceptance, appreciation, gratitude, joy, you have to be that master. Bring yourself there.
Yeah.
It's a skill, but it's learnable and important.
Yeah, absolutely. I was thinking in appreciation and gratitude. I read an article that talked about how gratitude or appreciation, just accessing that part of your brain to think about it, makes a huge difference in terms of your experience. You're just happier. And I did that with my husband during an argument. I was like, we're sitting that silence. We're like, And I remember the article and I went, all right, either this is going to tick him off more or it's going to make us feel better. So I just started listing all the things that I was grateful for right then, including him and things that he had done. And then I go, okay, it's your turn. And he played along, kudos to him. He played along and he did. And then afterwards, we both felt better and we were able to actually address the real issue instead of just getting caught up in the emotion of it. So yeah, totally what you're saying, just being, even if I don't feel like it, just going there has this huge shift.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. And then lastly, as we wrap up.
One more tip, what I'd offer. Gosh, let me think about this one for a moment. I guess I would go back to the one, be impeccable with your word. I feel like one of the biggest challenges we have in life is our own judgment Our whole collective consciousness is judging everything, good, bad, right, wrong. And we can certainly get into that as a mother, as a parent. We're doing it right or we're doing it wrong. And I think there's even a greater wisdom beyond right, wrong, good, bad, is, does this work? Does this not work? Does this uplift my energy and the energy of my family, or does this not? And so trying to transcend the judgmental mind, we start being gentler on ourselves, we start being gentler on everyone else, and to get rid of, I should say, drop the hammer of our judge is a very big challenge, because the mind is programmed to put everything into categories. And so just ask yourself, does this work? Does this not work? What works? What doesn't work? I think that's a better inner language than this is right and this is wrong.
Yeah, I've been trying to drop the whole good, bad, because it's just judgy without actually being descriptive, you know? So, yeah, absolutely. So basically what that means is I need to stop telling myself I'm a bad mom.
For sure.
Awesome.
I can guarantee you, you're not a bad mom. I can guarantee you probably have bad moments, as we all do.
Well, maybe moments that feel yucky.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Let me just add one more thing to that judgment. And I think this is important for women to listen more deeply to their inner voice rather than their should master. To really listen deeply to what they are feeling inside. And actually the free gift I have for everyone today is about that.
Tell us more about that.
Okay, my gift is a small ebook called Shore Up Your Emotional Intelligence. We've been taught that our intellectual intelligence is the most important for success. It's actually not true. The new research shows that having really strong emotional resilience is what makes us more successful in life, so that we can really shore up our emotional body. And so my ebook speaks about that. Awesome. And when feelings come up, there's a message there. I had a woman I talked to this morning, and she was just so angry, and she was judging herself for being angry. And I said, let's take a look at this anger, because it's really a message. It's something telling you that this is no longer okay. You can't do this anymore. Listen to your feeling body. And my ebooks explains a little bit more about that.
Awesome. Well, I really look forward to getting it for myself. And thank you so much, Victoria, for being here with us. I really, really appreciated this talk with you. So thank you.
Thank you, Valerie. It's been my pleasure.
Awesome. And Victoria is going to join us in the Facebook group, An Empowered Motherhood Journey, so that if you have any questions about the free gift or about her talk or anything like that, you can reach out to her there at hashtag Motherhood Unlimited, and then just tag her in that group. So make sure you come join the conversation. And as a reminder to everyone, the email that you were sent with this video also has a link for you to access the free gift right where you access the video. So this concludes this interview of Motherhood Unlimited. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And be sure to tune in tomorrow for another exciting, inspirational, and helpful interview from Motherhood Unlimited. And I look forward to having you all with us. Thanks. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.